I'm so excited for what we have planned because this is where the actual writing of the book starts. I've been looking at people's assignment from day 3, and one of the things that I want to say is that you want whatever your benefit is to, and what the problem is, you want it to be concrete. So many times when people are, especially like in spiritual topics, they'll say things that are not concrete, like, I just want to have more connection or something. But it's like what that's not, people don't lay in bed at night thinking, oh, I need more connection to my prayers, because I know somebody was talking about that. So it has to be concrete. It's like, what benefit are they going to get? More money, they can hold it in their hand. Write a book, you can hold a book in your hand. Like, what is a concrete thing that people are going to get? And really, it goes back to, again, thinking about when they're laying in bed at night thinking, I've got this problem, I want it solved. What is that problem they want solved? If they want, like I wanted my video fixed. I mean, that was a thing I needed fixed. It wasn't some idea or belief. It's like, it's concrete. You can see it, or you can feel it, or you can touch it. So when you're thinking about the benefits from your clients, that's one of the reasons why you want to ask your clients. Hi, Catherine. Yeah, that's one of the reasons you want to ask them, is because they will tell you concretely what's keeping them up at night. And I can guarantee you it's not some of the things that people write. Okay, so I'm excited for what I have planned today. I want to know, are you guys ready to go deeper today? Are you ready to roll up your sleeves and start writing? Because we're going to get into titles and subtitles later today. Yay, Betsy. Okay, so you ready? Can I get a yes? Yes, yes, yes. Go deeper. Okay, cool. Barbara, hi. Okay. So I went pretty long on the first day, I think, but this one may eclipse out a little bit. I'm not sure. We'll see. But anyway, okay. So the thing is, you now know what excites you. You know what you're good at. You know more or less who your audience is, right? And what you solve. Now, again, I really want people to look at what you're saying you solve and make sure it is a concrete thing and it really is what people want and how they would talk about it. So that's why, as I said, it's important to go back and actually ask them if you can. Okay. And if you don't know these things, everything that I just mentioned, then you do need to go back and go through day 1, day 2, or day 3, or all 3 of them to get really clear. But today, we want to find out how people are going to find your book, right? First of all, like, they've got a lot of choices, and why are they going to buy yours? So you've got to make it really clear why they should buy yours. Like, because this is why we're doing this, right? So people can find the book and buy it and use it. So if they don't know what's there, they can't buy it. And if they don't know that yours is the best, then they may not buy it. Or if they don't know why yours is different, if they don't know exactly what yours will give them that the other books will not give them. So that's what we're going to cover today. Now, we've done the groundwork. So we're going to go into how we make it clear what the book's about, how it helps them, why they should buy it, as I said, and why it is the only choice. The only choice. And that means you want to write a title and a subtitle that connects with your audience. And again, that means you have to meet them where they are. You have to use their language, and it has to trigger that emotional thing in their brain that goes, that's it, right? They're not thinking about it. It's like, what we do is we make a decision emotionally, and then we justify it with our thinking. Okay, so that's why you've got to understand them and make that connection emotionally. Not thinking. It's not a thinking decision. Okay. And to do that, first we need to talk about keywords. So you need keywords for your titles and for your marketing. So this is how your book gets found on Amazon. Amazon is just one big search engine. So we have to figure out how to play the search engine, how to play in their field and do what we need to do to get seen by them. So what are the best keywords? Okay, so I asked you to go ask people what they, what the benefit was that they wanted, what the challenge was that they wanted, and what words they used. Remember, I said record it so that you can listen to the exact words that they used. Now we want to look at those words. We want to analyze those words and say, okay, were there words that came up over and over? Or were there words that came up that, I hadn't thought of that word, but yeah, that makes sense. So that's the first step, which we did yesterday, hopefully. And then if you didn't have time to ask, just ask yourself for now, but you'll still want to do that later is, if I were looking up for my topic, what words would I look up or what key phrases would I look up? And then you can also ask in social media, right? So, just ask if you were looking for my topic X, what do you think you would look up? And people will tell you, people love to be helpful. So, let them be helpful. Okay, then I analyze my the words that I come up with. So one is to use a keyword search tool like Word Tracker. That's the one I usually use. I use it because it's easy and it's free. There's another one that sometimes when Word Tracker isn't working for some reason, I'll go to Uber Suggest. But the whole thing about that is that you can only use one. Like you can't go to one and then say, oh, I ran out of free words here, so I'm going to go to the other one. And then you're trying to compare the two, but they're not the same, right? So because if they're not the same, you're not comparing apples to apples. So that's why you have to know that, okay? So Word Tracker. So Word Tracker, I look for words that are like 33,000 to 100,000 in volume. And a lot of times people will ask me, well, what does it have to do with clicks? And I said, well, I don't know exactly how they figure it out, but it's relative. It's like if that one gets 33,000 and another word that you're looking at gets 20,000, that's telling you that one relative to the other, that one's better. It's more in our range. Now, there have been times, not that often, but occasionally there'll be a word that's smaller, and I can't remember which one it was, but I remember I was working with somebody and the word only had 14,000, but then when we went into Amazon and cross-referenced it, it was selling big and there were lots of bestsellers. So it's not 100%, but it is a guide. And then also they have other suggestions in there. So you may be thinking of one word and then on the side, on the left side, you'll see a bunch of other words. And so you can look at those and you might find something and go, oh, I hadn't thought of that, but that's a good word. So that's what we're looking for. We're still kind of just doing the research, soaking it in. When I work with my private clients, we always do a Crushing Kindle Marketing and Visibility study first. That is the foundation for everything that I do, everything that I teach. But the bottom line is that you want to know what books are selling. And these are just ways to help you figure that out. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Let's see, what are we saying here? I actually got to meet with someone. Oh, an overwhelm and accountability came up. These may not be keywords, but common words that came up. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, if they're having overwhelm and need accountability, those are things you're going to want to put in your marketing pieces. And it's also something that you're going to want to include in your program. But that's not keywords that they're looking up necessarily, unless you're in a niche where they're saying their whole thing is overwhelm. But it's like if I'm working with authors and they're saying I'm overwhelmed, they're not going to look up overwhelm. They're going to look up how to write a book, right? Or something like that. So, yeah, so you have to be careful when people tell you things. It has to be a keyword that people are looking up specifically, not that part is not how they're feeling about it. Those are two distinctly different things. Okay. So, yeah, so you have to be aware of that. Okay, so once I've gotten my keywords down from Word Tracker, and what I do is I make like a I call it my worksheet, and it's my digital piece of paper, and I literally write this all in there. So I have it all in one place. And then I go into Amazon and I put in each keyword that I think are the best keywords one at a time. And I start looking to see if there are any bestsellers. So if there are no bestsellers, that's not good. I want to see bestsellers because bestsellers mean that that's a topic people are interested in. And then the other thing, though, is like sometimes, and I'm going to mention one a little bit later, but sometimes there'll be a book that has been a big bestseller and it isn't necessarily now because it's a little bit older. But if you know that something was a big bestseller, then that's important to know too. Also, you have to be aware that you can't compare. You can kind of compare when you're looking at titles and books, but you can't compare like sales when you're talking about somebody like, Brene Brown or Malcolm Gladwell against you if you're like a new author and you don't have hardly any authority, or social media reach or anything. So you have to be careful with that. But to start, we're just looking for bestsellers. And then if there are no bestsellers, that's a red flag because if it's not selling, that's a problem. But also sometimes people will say, well, I got this this great idea for a book and nobody's ever done it before. And what I say to them is if nobody's ever done it before, that's a problem because either nobody's interested in it. I mean, there's millions of books on Amazon. So if nobody's interested in it at this point, that would scare me. The other point is that sometimes it's a new topic or a newer, like cutting edge, and then you have to educate your audience. The thing about educating your audience is it takes a lot more money, a lot more advertising, a lot more trainings. And so if you can write a book that's more established right now, I think that's a better idea to grow your business. And then you have the opportunity to kind of work on those outer edge topics later. At least that's what I would do. And then there's a book called The Blue Ocean. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but the idea is that the red ocean, let's see, is it keywords in title or subtitle? Both, wherever they show up, wherever it makes sense to use them. You never want to stuff your titles. Like you don't want to have a weird construction just so that you can get a word in there. So yeah, it depends how it shows up. And when I'm working with people, what we do is we'll write the subtitle, or if they just happen to know what their title is and it's really cool, then whatever we used in that part that we worked on, we're not going to use it in the other part. So we only want to use the word once. And then also, you don't want to use that as one of your 7 keywords that Amazon gives you because you've already used it. So then you can use more words. So that gets you more visibility. But to get back to the blue ocean, the idea is that when there are sharks in the water and there's blood, it's all red and it's a feeding frenzy. And that's where there's all that noise. There's everybody trying to make money. Everybody's doing the same thing. And it's very difficult. A blue ocean is just outside the red ocean. And what that is where you're still going for that same market, but you've got an idea that's just a little bit different, just a little bit unique. And that's where we want to be. Okay, we want to be in the blue ocean. So let's see. Okay, so the other thing is while you're looking at your keywords and you're finding your best sellers, you can also scroll down into product details, and then you can look at what categories they're showing up in. And the way Amazon works is number 1 in Amazon is number 1 in all of Amazon, but there are millions of books. So books that are selling between 1 and 5,000 are selling a lot of books. Daily, thousands of books. 5,000 to 10,000 are selling really well, 10,000 to 15,000. It goes up to there, and up to about 50,000, they're selling a book a day. After that, it starts to get a little more spotty. But when we're doing keyword research, if you get that information on the categories, then you don't have to go back later and do it separately. So it saves you some time. So while you're looking for the categories and you're finding the best sellers, also look at what categories those showed up in. And then you have to go back and look at your title, or your topic, and say, okay, well, for my topic, which of these would be best? So for instance, let's say, you write a book and it shows up in Christian religion, and you're writing a book that's not about, it's not religious, or you don't want to show up where people are looking for that, then you would say no. But maybe there's another one that says, um, you know, spirituality and religion, and maybe that's more what you're looking at. So, you just have to do that. Are these ebook or print versions? You can look at either one. I like to look at ebooks because when I do my bestseller launch, I start by using Amazon and using their KDP Select and giving it away for a couple days, because to me, it's a lead magnet. I'm not concerned about losing a few bucks because I gave some away. If that person can become a client of mine and I can make $5, $10, $20, $50,000 with them. So to me, that doesn't make sense. There are authors who don't think that way, who act like, oh my God, I spent all this time and damn it, I'm going to get paid for every single copy of my book. So it really depends on your strategy and what your ultimate goals are, as to how you want to use it. So I always use ebooks, but you can look at books too. And absolutely, I do look at books for the bestsellers to see if they're on there as well. And you also have to be aware, like when books are in their launch, they can get to number one really fast and then they could go away really fast. So you want to be looking at books that are not on the free list when you're looking at this. You want to look at books that are actually selling, or what should I say? Yeah, and even the ebooks. You want the ebooks or the print books to be selling. Okay, so does that make sense to everybody? You don't want to look at why somebody's doing it in the launch, because that's like where there's this huge avalanche of attention and energy, and yeah, people are buying, but that can come and go pretty fast. We want to see what's stayed there for a while. Okay. Okay. You also want to make sure that you're comparing books on the same topic. Okay. So for instance, like let's say you have a book. I was looking at these actually yesterday. So there was a book on gratitude called Gratitude by Oliver Sacks. And it's more of a memoir and what he's grateful for in his life and that kind of thing, versus a gratitude journal. Those are not the same. There are two different types of books. So if you're writing a journal, you need to look at the other journals. Okay. Right? So that's a writer downer too. You want to make sure that you're comparing the same kinds of books when you're looking for bestsellers, because that does happen. Or it could be like you're looking for how to parent, and your thing is how to parent kids that are under 5 years old. And all of a sudden you see a bestseller, but the bestseller is how to parent teenagers. Well, that's not what your book's about. So you got to make sure that you only look at the bestsellers that are comparable to your book, to what you're writing. Catherine says, I wondered how that worked. Thank you for this, because this is not something to stumble upon. Yeah. Yeah, no, this is the nitty gritty. And it's so funny. I was just working with a client of mine a couple weeks ago, and a brand new client. And he was saying, oh my God, I've gone into Amazon so many times and tried to do this, and I just would get lost and I didn't understand. And now you just showed me, once you know how to do it, it's easy. This is not hard stuff once you know, but when you don't know what you don't know, right? So, you look at it and it's like, you don't know how to analyze it. And really that's all it is. It's analyzing the numbers. This is easy because you don't have, it's not art. It's not guesswork, it's numbers. So you look at the numbers, and the higher the numbers, the more bestsellers, the more they're selling. That's what we're looking for. So that's what we want to do. Okay. And then we need the keywords right now because we're doing it in order, number one, but we also need the keywords because we're going to use them then to think about our titles and subtitles. So what was I going to say? Oh, before I go into that, I was going to say that you can also use this in other ways. Like I had a client who was looking at writing a book on reflexology, and she was trying to decide, should I write my book on reflexology for children or for teenagers? And in her case, it just turned out they were selling about the same, but the ones for teenagers were like 3 times the price. So she could get at that point, she could get like $9 for a teenage one and only like $2.99 for a small kid one. And so that made her decision easy about which one to do first. And I want to encourage you, to look at that too. It's like, we talked yesterday about writing a series of books. Well, when you're writing the first one, and you're putting money out and you're doing this, and especially if you're still building your business, then you want to make sure that you pick one of the ideal audiences that is going to make you more money than one that's going to make you less money. So, you can look at that too. Look at the pricing, look at how are books priced in different categories for different groups of people. So that's another thing you can look at. And sometimes a book isn't selling because they approached it the wrong way. Okay, this is fascinating to me. So I had 2 people come to me in the same week one time, and they both were writing books about being fearless. And we went and did the research at that point. Fearless wasn't really selling that well. Now, I went back yesterday and I was looking in Word Tracker at what the numbers were. Fearless was 82,458. Courageous was 132,542. So Courageous, and this was what we found out back then too, was that if you approached it from being more courageous, it sold better than being fearless, because people don't believe, most people are not fearless. Like most people are afraid of something. And so it's about, for most people, it's about being courageous in the face of fear, not being fearless. And so you have to be careful about that. So you want to make sure that you're approaching your topic from the right angle, and looking at the numbers can help you do that. So that's another reason why you need to look at the numbers. Okay. Okay. So I did some other research. Okay. And sometimes, people will, well, what I just said was, different words approaching a different way, but also sometimes people will use the not the best version of a word. So for instance, I had a guy come to me and he was so proud of himself. He'd bought all of these domain names. He'd spent like over $1,000 on domain names. And I looked at what he was doing and I said, you're leaving like 2/3 of the money on the table by the domain names that you bought, because he didn't use the most search engine optimized version of the word. So for instance, happy has 382,917 in volume, and happiness has 130,958. Okay. And happy has 200,000 books, over 200,000 books in Amazon, and happiness has 60,000 books. So one is not better or worse than the other in this case, but the point is that when you're looking at your domain name, you want to look at those and go, okay, well, I'm going to get more eyeballs if I'm at happy than I am at happiness. So can I create a domain name that has happy instead of happiness? On the other hand, and I know this is the part that gets hard for people. On the other hand, if you're trying to reach an audience and there's so many books on a topic and you're trying to whittle down to get directly to the people that are your ideal clients, happiness may be a better word if you can put it in with that benefit that you're going to give that's different than the other people's. So that part is not an exact science. But I'll tell you that the Happiness Trap is a bestseller, and there were no bestsellers under happy, and there was less competition. And so now you're competing with 60,000 people instead of 200,000 people, and there's a bestseller. So that's where getting a larger volume isn't necessarily a great thing, because that it usually means it's more general. Okay. Say again what Word Tracker is. Word Tracker is a keyword analyzer. and they have a free and they have a paid, and they're very generous. I mean, you can do quite a few words before you have to pay. So what I do is I just go in there and use the free, and then if I run out, I'll come back the next day. Or if I'm working with the client, I'll do some of them and they'll do some of them.
Word Tracker has changed their site, so you now have to sign up for a free trial and then a monthly membership. So I switched to Publisher Rocket, and my link to that is https://booksOpenDoors.com/analyzer, ANALYZER. That's booksopendoors.com/analyzer. It's a one-time cost and it's very affordable. Plus, it has more features. So you can analyze keywords, categories, your competition, AMS, and they have tutorials that are going to walk you through it. So again, that's booksopendoors.com/analyzer. I also work with clients individually. This is one of my superpowers. And I do the research for them, and that goes deeper into it in certain areas than what Publisher Rocket can do. So we look at the keywords and categories, and I can actually use Publisher Rocket in my private calls with people, but we go deeper. As I said, I come up with the bestseller title and subtitle based on those keywords. And I have had people tell me that people buy the book just based on the titles that I've given them. Also, positioning the book to stand out from the other books and speak to your audience so they buy your book. So to learn more about that, you can go to https://booksopendoors.com/services. That's booksopendoors.com/services. Or if you're ready to just move ahead, you're welcome to sign up for a chat with me at bookwithellen.com. That's https://bookwithellen.com. So those are the two things you can do. Okay. So don't worry about Word Tracker. I mean, if that's something you'd prefer to do, you're welcome to do that. But I would always rather get something that's a one-time cost than something that I have to pay for monthly.
How does Amazon classify by title or keywords? Both. Amazon is looking at everything. They're looking at what your topic is. They're looking at what words you use. They're looking at what categories you pick, all of that. And they love you when you do this well. You will get a lot more visibility when you do this well. You know, I didn't understand keywords when I first got started, and ebooks were newer at the time, and they were a lot newer than books. Books have been around for hundreds of years. And so I wanted to go digitally, and there were no ebook coaches. That's what I was looking for, was an ebook coach, and there were not any. So I decided to become the ebook coach. Well, the problem with that over time was there were two challenges. One was that over time we would just do one book and do it in two formats. So there was no difference now between an ebook and a book coach. The second thing is that when you do SEO, ebooks, it came up at 71,667, and books came up at 642,917. There are a lot more people searching for a book than an ebook. Now, again, it goes back to, okay, well, you could specialize in ebooks, and that makes you stand out. Or do you want to reach a bigger audience in books, but you're going to have more competition. So in other words, if you look at that, like when I first started, I had less competition and my marketing skills weren't that good. And so that was great for me. As my skills got better, then it made more sense for me to get into the bigger pond. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? So that's why you have to understand the strategy here. You know, what's your strategy? Because it's not one size fits all. You just have to decide what it is you're looking for and what stage that you are in your business. Now, another thing that comes up when you're doing this research, okay, good, it makes sense. So another thing that comes up when you're doing the research is you may see that some of the same words come up over and over. That's also a clue that it's a good keyword that you might want to use. Now, unfortunately, Amazon doesn't tell us what keywords people are using. It would be nice if they did, but they don't. So we're kind of like, you know, having to do detective work. But when you see the same words, the same phrases over and over, there's a reason. It's because they work. And also it can be vernacular. It can be like, well, this is how people talk. And I remember I had one client who we came up well, we found this phrase that kept coming up. And she just said, oh, I don't like that phrase. And my response to her was, well, it doesn't matter whether you like it or not. That's what's selling the books. And it would be really easy to put that in and still have your benefit show that you're unique. And she was like, no, I'm not using that. So, I mean, if somebody feels that way, that's their prerogative. I'd rather sell books and get more visibility. That's just me. Now, once you know what's selling, let's see, then you have to analyze, okay, what's already been done and how is yours different? That comes back to wanting to be unique. And also, you don't want to be a clone of somebody else. You don't want to be a book where it's like, oh, well, that's been done a million times. Why would I buy that book? Or for instance, I had a client who was a chiropractor, and we went into Kindle to do some research. He'd actually already written his book before he came to me. I remember we edited it and we were doing a bestseller with him, I think. And I found this other book. And I go, this book sounds just like your book. And it was Healing Pain Naturally and the same thing. And he goes, oh, no, that guy, he's the go-to guy in the niche. That's the one everybody knows. But my book is different. My book has a system and this and that. And I said, well, I don't get that from your title. And if I go in there and I know he's the go-to guy and yours is no different to me, I'm going to buy his. And I don't have the cliff notes, right? You're not there to explain this to me. It has to be understandable within your title. Because as I said, you're not there to explain it. And I'll tell you something, whenever I'm working with a client and somebody reads or a prospect and they read me a title and I say, well, what does that mean? The minute you hear me say, what does that mean? It means I don't get what it means. And if I don't get what it means, it's not ready. It's not clear. If other people don't get what it means, you have to be able to connect with your audience with your title. And if nobody knows what it means, you're in trouble. Now, that doesn't mean you can't write titles that are kooky, that evoke curiosity, that are interesting, because you can in your title and then you explain it in your subtitle. So a title like Blink, what is it? How to Think Without Thinking. I would not know what Blink was about if I didn't have a subtitle. So, again, every title is different, but there are certain rules that you have to follow. And that rule is connecting with your audience and making them either think or have curiosity, want to take, want to take the next step with you. That's what we're trying to get them to do. So it has to add something new to the conversation. It has to be interesting. And so when you're writing your subtitle, you want to think about, how is your process unique? And it can be in your title too. Like sometimes people write, as a matter of fact, I did it in my book, Help, This Move is Driving Me Crazy, the ultimate guide to. So, if you have a book, there's one by Tom Antion that's like an ultimate reference book to internet marketing. So you can use those kind of words that kind of separate it apart. But you want to quantify what is going to appeal to your potential buyers. So, do you have a step-by-step system? Is it 5 steps to 7 steps to? Now, when I was writing Help, This Move is Driving Me Crazy, the original title was 22 steps to whatever, organizing your move. And I remember I was working with Dan Pointer and he went, oh my God, this is so boring. This is terrible. That's not a title. I mean, it was a subtitle, first of all. But second of all, nobody wants 22 steps. That's hard. That's too many steps. So if it's that many steps, you're not going to say it's a step-by-step system. Okay? You don't want to do that. But what if they get results in 30 days? What if they get results in 7 days? Whatever that time frame is. So you want to do something that makes it sound accessible, makes it sound easy, makes it sound doable. But also you want it to be realistic. I was on a call with a guy who teaches speaking, and he said, oh, this is so easy. It's just 3 steps. And the first step was like, I can't even remember what the first part was, but it was like, oh, just know how to sell it. Have a program and know how to sell it. Well, it took me years to know how to sell it, but yeah, that was step 1, So come on, be real with people, because, people want authenticity, but they also want real results, and they want something that is real, because otherwise they're going to go, oh, this person's just a shyster, and forget it. Now, I mean, there's some people who think they can't write a book in 7 days, and I'm full of crap, but here's my book. Get this over here. Here's my book. 21 Simple Strategies to Jumpstart Your Book Marketing Online, Proven Techniques for Quick Results. I wrote this book in 3 days. Do I write every book in 3 days? No. But I wrote that one in 3 days. And I don't take months and months to write my books anymore like I used to, because I use my system. So it's definitely doable. One of my clients, Jeff Herring, he took my boot camp, and the day it was over, he was on Amazon selling his book. So it can be done. Are there other people who take longer? Absolutely. So, just be real about it. And the other thing is, what can make it unique is who it's for. So for instance, my book, How to Crush It in Business Without Crushing Your Spirit, How Entrepreneurs Can Overcome Depression and Find Success. There are lots of books on depression, but I couldn't find any on depression for entrepreneurs. And at that point, I was going through my own depression. I was hearing a lot of my colleagues who were just having a really hard time, even ones that were making millions and millions of dollars. I heard a story about a woman who was crying herself to sleep every night. And in my eyes, I mean, she was super successful. She made millions, and she was miserable. So I knew this was a huge problem, even though there was nothing available on it. And right about that time, actually, a little after that, actually, some very successful people were killing themselves. Kate Spade had died, and Anthony Bourdain. So, it's really sad, because just being successful isn't enough. You have to be able to handle your emotions and whatever comes up and deal with it. So that was really important for me to write. And I'll tell you something, my mentor told me not to write that book, that it wasn't going to move my business forward. Number one, I disagree. A lot of times I'll talk on podcasts, and people will come and want to work with me, and I'll say, well, what made you want to work with me? Oh, you overcame so much, and you persevered, and I respect that. So that was one of the things that people liked. And I've sold more of that book than any other book, because there are a lot of people who are entrepreneurs who are not book writers. But it wasn't my first book. Okay, I want to be clear about that, because again, niching down really is the key. Okay, let's see, what should the maximum be? 3, 5, or 7, or 10? Yeah, I wouldn't go past 7 if you're doing a step system. Okay. Okay, so what's next? We've talked about, how you can write books for so many different people in your niche. So like the E-Myth, he wrote the first one, and then he turned into a series. He's got E-Myth for attorneys and contractors and managers and all kinds of different people. Or, you can differentiate it by giving it a twist or a little different name. So like my client, Jackie Ruka, she wrote a book in my boot camp called Get Happy, Create a Kick Butt Life, a creative toolbox to rapidly activate the life you desire. So toolbox, I mean, that was kind of a different word, and toolbox just has a different connotation than, some tips, right? And then to rapidly activate the life you desire. Rapidly is a huge word in that title. She didn't just say to live your dream life. Everybody says that. You don't want to write it like that. You want it to stand out. And sometimes just a little twist, make the difference. Somebody hears something different. When we were in the Q&A yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Barbara was saying that there were several people who had said they were, had said there were several people who were offering, boot camps or challenges or just information, whatever, on writing a book. I say write a bestseller, because the way I look at it is, I don't want to write a book. I want to write a book that's going to sell. And if it's going to sell, it's a bestseller. So just a little twist can make a big difference. Okay. So in Jackie's case, there are lots of books about being happy, but there wasn't one that was a toolbox, or sometimes what people do is they'll call it a course, and then they'll charge a whole bunch more money for it. I can't remember the guy's name right now. I used to be pretty friendly with him, but early on he wrote this book and he called it a course, and he made over $1 million with that book that he called a course and charged $100 for it. Yeah, money is never the answer. It seems to be a common block. Okay. So next, I just want to say shorter titles tend to be better than longer titles in general, and that's because they're easier to remember. So if you're on a you hear it on a podcast, but you're driving, you're exercising, you're not somewhere where you can write it down, it's easier to remember the title, and then you can go find it. So that's why short is good, and then explaining it in your subtitle. But that doesn't mean there aren't long titles that are memorable. How to Crush It in Business Without Crushing Your Spirit is a very long title, but it worked. Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. I love that title because, oh my God, it doesn't get more clever than that, and it totally works. And it's absolutely what that author wanted to say, and it's a huge bestseller. So alliteration is very powerful. The ear likes alliteration. It's like it's music to us, music and words. And that is one of my superpowers since I've been writing music and words pretty much all my adult life. So I'm giving you, some shortcuts here and the main things to think about, because there just simply isn't time to go into everything that we do there. We're putting together the raw materials here so that you can do the work yourself. But next, you want to make sure that your title is unique and don't use one that's been used. Oh, so what I want to say about that is you want to make sure that your title is unique, because if it isn't, number one, the domain name will probably be gone. You only want to use .com, not .net, not .us, whatever, because people go to .com. And then what's going to happen is you're going to be marketing for somebody else's book. So that can cause confusion and you can lose sales. And what I always say to my clients is get more creative. Believe me, if the obvious thing is taken, chances are you're going to come up with something way better. And I've never seen that fail. So sometimes, though, like the same title can be used two different ways. That's a whole different ballgame. Like Books Open Doors, I was really not happy when I went to Instagram. I always get those confused. And somebody had Books Open Doors already. Oh, I was so mad. But I looked at what they were doing, and it was about reading books. That's not what mine's about. So my Books Open Doors doesn't infringe on theirs. And in fact, I was able to get mine trademarked for coaching. So I don't have to worry about that. But you got to be careful with those things. You don't want to confuse people. Okay, so your title has to be clear. That's really the bottom line. It has to be clear. If you can't think of the titles right now, that's okay, but you need a working title, because you can't write your outline and you can't write your book if you aren't really clear about what your book is about. So when I work with clients, we'll come up with a title and subtitle, and sometimes we go, okay, this needs some massaging. Sometimes we go, let's sleep on it. But we always have dialed in what the book's about. That's the bottom line. You have to know what the book's about, or you cannot move forward. And it has to be clear, or it's not going to sell. So if you are not sure, then you need to go back and look at your list of problems that you solve. You need to get really clear as to what they are concretely, not some airy-fairy thing that you can't really put your finger on. And, then get your keywords and do yourself a favor and get the categories at the same time, just so you have it for later, so you don't have to go back. And that's what we're going to do. So are there any questions? Any questions, any comments, takeaways? What are your biggest takeaways for today? Have I demystified Amazon for you? Are you still there? Okay. What is the definition of bestseller? Oh, that's a great question. What is the definition of a bestseller? To me, the definition of a bestseller is that it's selling books, right? Now, there are three places where people get bestsellers these days, usually Amazon, USA Today, New York Times bestseller. How big your bestseller, and I talked about this before, but how big your bestseller is, it depends on how big your audience is. So if you can only make it a bestseller in Amazon, make it a bestseller in Amazon. If you can sell enough books to make it USA Today, great. If you can sell enough to make it a New York Times bestseller, awesome. But I have heard from the insider, inside scoop, that there's more to it on New York Times, that there's some issues with popularity and who they like, but also selling a lot of books. So, but that is what a bestseller is. It's selling books. But if your bestseller just gets up there and stays up there long enough to call it a bestseller, take it, because you can still get opportunities from that. And so people who say to you, oh, well, it was just an Amazon bestseller. Oh, well, anybody can be a bestseller. Well, guess what? When I started doing bestseller launches, I had a client who came to me and she was working with my partner, Jeff, and she said, I'm going to be a number one bestselling author because Ellen's going to make me one. And he said, yeah, right. Well, why did he react that way? He reacted that way because they were trying to make people number one bestsellers and they weren't getting there. So, so he was skeptical. And so she and I worked together, and oh boy, it was a nail biter, because she only did a 1 day, which I don't recommend. I recommend when you're starting at least doing a 2-day launch. But she did 1 day. We got to 11:30 p.m. and it wasn't number one yet. And I'm tearing my hair out and praying to God, please, please, please make this number one by midnight. And so, in the last jump, it went to number one. And so Jeff said, he wanted to meet me, and his company's been doing the back office for me ever since on the bestseller launches, because they're great at getting it in the right announcement sites, getting it in the right groups for you. And yeah, so we do all that in our bestseller launches. Okay, so takeaways. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Catherine said she's asking because you warned us of the bestseller station during a launch or a free list. Yeah, what I was talking about was when you're doing the research and you're looking for bestsellers, in that case, it's better to look at books that are not free. But when you're doing a bestseller, there's nothing wrong with giving it away for a couple of days. And remember, even when you're giving away your ebook, your print book is still for sale. So you're still making sales. And people go, oh, I can't give this away. And there are a lot of people who prefer books. I mean, I'm a book hoarder. I have so many books and I'm always buying books. So I'm never going to stop buying books. I mean, sometimes I'm laying in bed and I'm reading it on KDP, but I'd much rather read a book. So, yeah, okay, for research purposes. Okay, what about, no, I don't look at the audio. I look at the books, because it's kind of a different audience. It can be a different audience. I mean, it can overlap, but I don't use that for doing the research. No. Okay, awesome. Catherine says, you demystified Amazon for me. Yay. Yeah, I mean, it's so weird. It's like the first time that I went in there, it was almost like I just looked at it and I went, oh, okay, I know how to do this. Nobody taught me, nobody showed me, I just got it. So I'm just grateful that that's something that I can help people with, because it's so mystifying to so many people. The keyword analyzer is an eye-opener. Okay, good. Keyword search tool. Okay, to use those. Okay, those are all good. All good. So the assignment for today, put in the keywords that your audience is looking up, number one. Okay, and this is all in the handout. See which ones bring up bestsellers. I think it's all in the handout. Explain what makes your book unique. And so that's like, what are the benefits that are specific to your book? And then write down your title ideas. Okay, so you don't have to have this dialed in, but like I said, if you can just get to the point where you have your subtitle and you know what your topic is and how you're approaching it, that's what you need to know. Okay. Okay, so for those of you who do want to go on and write your bestseller, get it done, get it published, and have it ready to make it a bestseller, like this starts like August 9th. So it's coming up really fast. It's for mission-driven speakers, coaches, consultants, founders, and entrepreneurs who want to make a bigger impact, want to make more money, and want to leave a lasting legacy. These are the exact steps that I've taken to be a 9-time author, a multiple #1 best-selling author, and all my clients that I have worked with are #1 best-selling authors. And whether they wrote their book with me or not, if they didn't, we went back and we did the same process that we would have done if they'd started at the beginning. Like what I've taught you here is the foundation. So imagine seeing your book become a #1 bestseller, being sought after in media, by TV, podcasts, Facebook Lives, getting on stages. There's really big money in getting on stages, raising your fees, working with the best clients that you love working with, and being able to JV with other top experts. Having more time for your family, vacations, cars, whatever that is, the freedom to do what you want when you want to do, because books open doors when you write your book the right way. And money loves speed, okay? So knowledge changes very quickly in today's world. And if it takes too long, then it can become obsolete before you publish it. And that can be really stressful. It's depressing. That book that I held up a few minutes ago, I wrote that book in 2019. I've had to revise it. But, the internet's always changing. So you always have to be current. You just have to be current. And one of the things that also happens is, like, sometimes people will be writing a book, and while they're writing, they're growing, right? I mean, entrepreneurs, we love to learn. So we're always upgrading, we're always changing. And so if you keep like, okay, well, I'm working on this book. And then this woman was saying to me the other day, who's actually in the challenge, was saying, oh God, I've been working on my book for 5 years, but then I grew and I outgrew it and I'm not resonating with it now. That's why you got to write it when you're feeling it. Okay. And that's why you've got to write them fast, because like me, I mean, 9 books in 16 years. If I was writing, 2, 3, 5 years to write a book, I'd have 2. So, especially if you want to write more books. So you have to learn to write as quickly as you possibly can without losing the professionalism, the quality of your books. Okay. So otherwise it's just a waste of time. You keep growing, you keep changing, and you need it to keep up with you. So when I look at my early books, oh my God, like the first book that I wrote on how to write a book. It's embarrassing now, but thank God, because that means I grew. But that was the best I could do at that time. And I remember when I wrote it, I thought I was pretty damn good. Now I cringe. But, and you don't have to write 9 books. But when you have a system and you know that you can write a book whenever you want to, whenever you need to, whenever you want to up-level your career, that gives you a ton of freedom, because you know that it'll be a bestseller before you write it. You don't have to wait and guess, right? So you can impact a lot more people. And, if you look at people like, we've talked about some of these, Michael Gerber, Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Gary Keller, they all have multiple books, right? More books means more clients, more authority, more money, more opportunities. None would be where they are if they took years to write a book. And remember, I said, Gary Keller had said, the one thing that changed everything was writing a book. So, and I can tell you, like Christopher Lockheed is one of my clients. He was telling me how after he wrote the second book, people were treating him differently. He said, I feel like the same person, but they're treating me differently. Or Andrew, who was able to get on stage because he'd written the book. So when you write them faster, you remove the frustration, the stress, the overwhelm, and they don't become obsolete. And writing with me is going to give you the confidence and assurance that it's a book you're going to be proud of, because I'm not going to let you fail. We're not going to put it out until it's right, and we're going to get it right quickly. And I can tell you, I mean, I just went through this with another client. It's like she was just ignorant. She didn't understand the publishing process, and she would just get so lost in the weeds, and it's easy to do. Not only that, but it's like I've seen people spend thousands of dollars like on an edit, or and just get taken because they don't know who they're working with and they don't know what is involved. But anyway, that's a little bit off the track right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to go deeper into what we did here. Right. So we're going to nail down the exact topic that's best for you to write if you're not sure right now. We're going to go deeper into the best keywords and categories for your book with real life examples, how to write your bestseller title and titles that will attract your ideal clients, but not just how to do it. We're going to do it. Right. We're going to actually write your title in the boot camp. I'm going to give you my exact formula for writing your book in 3 days with 12 hours of writing time, like I wrote that book. And then you're going to write your book. You will get how to edit, format, publish in Amazon. And as a bonus, you're going to get the basics of making your book a #1 bestseller. So the training is the gold level. Okay, that's the entire training. Plus there are 4 accountability calls after the workshop over the next month. And for those who want to write a bestseller and work with a top-notch team to get this done, edited, formatted, published, a private mastermind where you get instant feedback on your ideas, your title, whatever it is that you need help with. That is the platinum level. I normally charge $5,000 right now just for the publishing package, no training. So right now through Monday, you can get the entire package for $4,500. So you're saving $500 on the publishing and you're essentially getting the training for free. I mean, this is like the best deal that you're ever going to get from me because we are going to be raising our prices after this time. And with this package, I'm tweaking your copy, okay, and even writing your title for you if you need me to. I mean, I am holding your hand through the process, and my team will as well where needed. I have a designer. We've done just like so many awesome book covers, and it's a top-notch professional package that you're going to get. In my experience, people who make decisions quickly are the most successful, and I want to reward those who do. So I have a fast action package for $1,691. And with that, first of all, I'm not going to go into all the bonuses right now. I'll go into them. You can see them on the page, actually, on the sales page. Also, book business abundance podcast interview. I probably shouldn't have called it that, but it's a $750 value. I will interview you about your book journey and your book. And it's an interview that you can not only use to sell books, but to get on more podcasts. And I can't guarantee that you're going to actually be on my podcast because it has to be right for the podcast. But if it is, I'm happy to put you on my podcast. My podcast now has over 100 episodes, and it is in the top 10 globally. And then finally, an extra one-on-one coaching call with me. That's a $300 value right now. It's really worth a lot more. And again, we're going to be raising our prices. But you can use this before, during, or after the boot camp up to 1 month after it. Okay. So these prices are good with the fast action bonuses are good for 48 hours or the first 10 people, because I can only do so many one-on-one coaching calls while we're doing all this other good stuff. So that means it is good till Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, unless it is filled up by then with those 10 people. And that is the deal with that. So let me see if there are any questions. I would love to have you guys go on and actually get your books done. It's so much fun. That URL is writeyourbestsellerbootcamp.com. writeyourbestsellerbootcamp.com. So if you're ready to take action, get your bestseller out into the world, and you want those fast action bonuses, then go there now. There's the 4,500 and then the plain training, just the training is a $1,500 value, and that's $997 right now. So you're saving $500 on either package. But I got to tell you, I don't recommend doing that if you're not somebody who really knows, who really can put a great team together for editing, formatting, getting a great cover, knowing how to do your keywords, your sales page, your Kindle description, your back cover copy. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but I have been doing this a long time, and I have a lot of it all in templates and things that I'll give you. Well, it makes it go really fast. I have systems for everything. So that's why it doesn't take us months and years to get our books out for our clients. Okay. So again, that's writeyourbestsellerbootcamp.com. Bye-bye, everybody.